Hi there. My name is Amy Kuniakis, and I'm the editor for Greenhouse Canada. Today, I'm joined by Ashley Paling, who is the research lead at the Horticultural Environmental Sciences Innovation Center at Niagara College, and Mr. Scott Gollum, who is the Innovation Center's Research Facilities Manager. Today, they're joining me to talk about HESIC. That's the abbreviation for the Horticultural and Environmental Sciences Innovation Center and the new greenhouse research facility at the college, and how it's going to play an important role in the industry. So before we get going, I just want to say congratulations to the HESIC team on the completion of this beautiful, or near completion of this beautiful facility. I know it's been years in the making. So thank you for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us here.
So let's get started. Why don't you tell me a little bit about the new facility, details about its size, design features, and any key technologies that have been included?
Sure. So the greenhouse that we've designed here is 5 individual research bays. So they're each about 130 square meters in size. They have varying different technologies in each different bay. So all of them have individual temperature, humidity control, as well as shades, blackouts. What we really try to do here is kind of grasp an area that we could kind of apply a commercial greenhouse on a smaller scale so that any of the results that we have from any trials that we do are relevant to commercial industry. So we have one bay that has, it's our hydroponic bay. So we have ebb and flood tables in there where we can do 4 different nutrient trials in ebb and flood settings. We have an NFT or nutrient film technique. So we have 2 setups for that we can do. We've also put in some drought spotter scales that we can do drought resistance trials with. Then we also have a high pressure sodium bay with expanded mesh benches. So what the key is that is a lot of greenhouses still haven't switched over to LED. So we wanted to make sure that we have at least one bay that has HPS lights to accommodate all those commercial growers. All the other bays that we have spectrum adjustable LED lighting in them. So that allows us to do different light spectrums for trials on growth regulation and a bunch of other different aspects there. The other bays we have a high wire bay, so dedicated for commercial crops, the typical kind of peppers, cucumbers, and tomatoes. And we also have a final bay that's being licensed right now for cannabis production as well. On top of that, we also have a vertical grow room. So the vertical grow room is about 35 square meters of grow space. It has 6 different racks heights set into 2 separate different systems, so we can do different trials that way. One of the other notable things we have is an analytical lab as well as a post-harvest lab, so we can do a lot of internal testing on any of the different crops that we're growing.
How does this facility differ from others, other research greenhouses across the country, in terms of equipment, environmental control, or capabilities?
Yeah, I can take that. Canada already has a really great existing ecosystem of research centers,
Mm.
specifically in Ontario. So we're really honored to be able to we see ourselves as a valuable addition to that existing ecosystem. Where we differ and where we're unique at HESIC is how we're uniquely structured to serve growers. So we were recently designated as a Technology Access Center, or a TAC, another abbreviation to use. So that means that our mandate is to help make leading edge technology extremely accessible to growers, which is our main priority. And that comes in all shapes and sizes. And that also means that we are catering to growers and industry partners of all shapes and sizes. So from small and medium-sized enterprises
Mm.
to large corporations and large commercial growers. A few of the things that set us apart our accessibility, obviously, thanks to that TAC designation. It also means that we have a pretty quick response rate because of our scale. So it means that we can move pretty quickly on research projects, which again, just is better for our industry partners, better for the growers. A big thing for us is that we don't maintain any intellectual property. There's no restrictions on that. So anything that a partner comes to us with, whether it's just an idea or a specific product or some process that they want to test, while we will conduct research for them and provide them with results and all of the data necessary for them to be able to kind of move forward with that technology, all of the IP remains with them, which is really important to us. So they get to do with that what they choose. If they wanted to, go further and publish with that, absolutely they can. We'd be happy to support them in that, but we're not going to do anything public wise without their permission, essentially. So all of that IP remains with the growers and with the industry partners. And another thing that is really unique for us at HESIC, specifically being located in Niagara College's Research and Innovation Department, is that we work with students. I actually started at HESIC as a student, as a research assistant many years ago, and I'm really grateful for that start. And because of that, I'm really passionate about our student engagement here. So all of our projects work with students. Our student assistants and research associates are a main part of HESIC as a whole. Some people may see that as a weakness or a challenge, but I think it's great to have the people who are currently being educated in greenhouse technology and the horticulture industry having hands-on experience on these projects. And I do think that that benefits the industry partners as a whole. So rather than, competing directly on scale with, like I said, all of these other really well-established research centers that we already have in Canada and Ontario, we just see ourselves as being flexible and being a valuable addition to that existing ecosystem.
Absolutely. Yeah. And like you said, with the students, you're cultivating like the future workforce for this industry, right? So,
Yeah, yeah. No
yeah,
pun
I think.
intended or pun intended.
um, so you have a lot of new tools and cutting edge tools available to you at this facility. Can you explain how these instruments like give growers insights they wouldn't typically have access to in their own operations? Can you dive into that?
Yeah, of course. So we have a whole bunch of different technologies that we've gotten with the new build in the greenhouse. So one of the most exciting things in my mind is the PhenoSpecs Trait Finder. So what this is basically a plant phenotyping camera. So it works on multispectral wavelengths to take pictures of the plants. It basically 3D models each plant as it grows. And what it allows us to do is basically see things like nutrient deficiencies, early senescence or plant kind of dying before it visually shows up to the eyes. So it really makes it a very strong tool for when we look at different soil amendments, different types of media, different ways of growing, that we can really start to see what's happening inside the plant that we can't visually see with our eyes kind of without this type of technology. Another really cool one is the PhenoSpecs drought spotter scales. So essentially what these do is allow us to precision irrigate individual plants to do drought stress tolerance tests on plants. So we can really start to see what are the capabilities, how do we maximize water usage without kind of being detrimental to the plant, and other different varying ways of looking at that.
Mm-hmm.
Another one we have is the Hugendorn AquaBalance. So what this does is basically a scale for anybody growing in high wire rock wool slabs. It allows you to basically do precision irrigation to, again, save on that irrigation water, so we don't have as much runoff, we aren't wasting things as much, and really just maximizing the growth of all of the different plants that we're growing. We also have an analytical lab, which has a whole bunch of different things, too many to really name, but basically everything from kind of plant size, biodensity, nutrient analysis, genomics equipment, a whole wide variety of things to really encapsulate whatever people are looking for. We probably have the ability to test what that is and give you really accurate results that help you kind of push that business forward.
So, how do you see crossover opportunities between traditional greenhouse production and vertical farming research?
Yeah, like Scott already kind of touched on, we have a real wide variety of things in our facility. And that was what we tried to aim for, was having as much adaptability and like flexibility as possible in one center. So specifically with having a vertical grow room, for example, in addition to traditional, mesh bench greenhouse bays and the high wire bays, that was our main goal, to make sure that we can serve as many different types of growers as possible. But something else that we wanted to make sure we were doing is kind of future proofing the facility. And something we've seen in a trend in agriculture and horticulture and greenhouse spaces is a trend of field crops moving indoors because of, weather patterns and land usage. So a great example of that is, peppers, tomatoes, and cucumbers. Majority of those are all grown in Ontario greenhouses right now. And that wasn't always the case. And we've seen within the last like 10, 15 years, another kind of recent trend of more crops transitioning from indoor greenhouse growing to specifically vertical growing environments.
Mm.
And this is, like I said, a somewhat more recent technology, and it's still an evolving field, which means that there's lots of opportunity for research in that area. And like you said, it doesn't have to be stuck to one specific type of grower. There's flexibility there. There's always like options for hybrids. So a grower who has traditionally grown a type of crop in a mesh bench, for example, and floriculture even, doesn't have to be like stuck to that for any type of projects that they approach us with. Another really important thing for having this vertical grow room is that vertical grow facilities come at a very high cost in the initial like build and infrastructure. So having this space available for growers means that they can take that risk of the like initial investment away from them. If they had an idea that they wanted to try, if they had a specific crop that they wanted to try in this new environment without having to, invest in a ton of infrastructure, we have that kind of pre-existing for them to take the risk out of that innovation and just focus on the actual questions that they want answered.
What kind of applied research projects can you see growers or the industry, like what will they be able to follow or participate in?
So I think we can do a lot of different variety trials and different kind of trials in general. Again, we have such a wide varying space usage that we can kind of touch on really any area of agriculture that we're looking at. So off the top of my head, really the big things would be variety trials. So you're starting to see this a lot of like vegetables, floriculture, things like that. People are looking for space to trial new varieties in Ontario, specifically in the greenhouse, to see what will work for them next season. So I think that's a really big one. We do a lot of different technology evaluations. So anything from new lighting systems to different substrates or different automation or robotic harvesting tools, things like that. We test a lot of soil and nutrient studies. We do a lot of soil amendments, different ways of taking waste products and putting them back into kind of the ecosystem and reusing them for plant growth. There's different pest management ones we can look at, so different biocontrols we've looked at in the past, as well as kind of registering new pesticides or integrating different IPM kind of strategies for growers. There's crop quality testing. So in our post-harvest and analytical lab, we can do things from shelf life to texture, nutrition analysis, things like that. And then again, we do have a cannabis bay that's being licensed, so there aren't a whole lot of academic cannabis research spaces that are available at the time. So we do have an indoor facility as well as the greenhouse facility. So we can start doing different trials for anything cannabis related that way. And again, just to tie it all in, we basically do a lot of sustainability initiatives. So we are seeing a lot of focus on kind of the reuse of different waste products and waste streams going through in the market and how we can kind of make this a circular economy. So I think that's really kind of where we fit in.
What role will stakeholders in the industry play in setting priorities for the research in the greenhouse there?
Yeah, that's a great question. We've kind of already touched on how industry partners are really at the center of our research program specifically. Being set at a college, we're focused on applied research, which means that we always have an industry partner involved in a research project that we're conducting at all times. So we build our projects in direct response to their needs, whether that means, like Scott touched on, like testing inputs, validating specific projects or products, it's helping troubleshoot different production challenges or processes in a greenhouse. So all of those things, those partnerships, those consultations, we're always coming back to what the industry partner needs specifically. And
Hmm.
we're not doing research for research sake. Sometimes, that can be fun to go down a rabbit hole, but we are focused specifically on what industry partners have as far as challenges, and we're answering those directly.
Can you provide any details about projects that you're working on currently, or?
So as Ashley touched on, we do have we don't have the IP restrictions, but we are only allowed to say what the partners allow us to say. So right now, with the one project that I can talk about, what we're doing is basically a variety trial with bell peppers in high wire hydroponics. So with this one here, what we've seen a lot in the past is different growers have really been facing a lot of issues with fusarium going through, or root rot, and basically rotting out their crops and killing a lot of plants in very large scale. So what this trial is doing is we're looking at testing a bunch of different varieties for this partner, infecting them purposely with fusarium to see which ones are fusarium resistant to help with their breeding program going forward and release new fusarium resistant varieties to the greenhouse market going forward.
So you bring the disease into the greenhouse and infect these. I I,
Yes.
I feel like a lot of facilities it would be a different scenario, like, a lot of biocontrol, but like here.
Yeah, and that's where we really fit into that kind of niche market being a research facility, right? Is that we can
Yeah.
do the dirty work that growers don't want in their facility, but it is necessary that we need to have these infections happen to really see how this plays out in the crop and what that stress resistant looks like and which varieties do actually hold up to the stress. So I think that's really a big thing that where we fit in overall is we can do the work that people don't want to take that risk in their own space with.
Yeah, no kidding. Um, so then, looking ahead, what do you see are as some of the biggest challenges and opportunities for Canadian greenhouse growers, and that this facility can help address or, overcome?
Yeah, so that's a big question, but a really good one because like we've talked about, it's important to obviously focus on current challenges, but it's also
Mhm.
very important to look ahead and see how we can kind of see what's coming down the pipeline. Obviously, we don't have a magic crystal ball. We can't see every single challenge that's coming our way, but there are definitely some trends and some common themes in the industry right now that I think we can help partners with. And again, we've kind of touched on a lot of these already in our discussion. Sustainability and like resource uses is a big one right now. So whether that's finding ways to reduce inputs, reduce fertilizer usage, recycle waste streams in different ways. We've done a lot of projects in the past with byproducts from other industries and seeing how those can be reused either in the agriculture industry or elsewhere. And the important thing is still maintaining profit and commercial viability while maintaining sustainable operations throughout, and that's definitely a really big focus right now. um, Another one, again, that's really top of mind is crop diversification and further innovation in that area. Again, we've already talked about how, increasing changes in weather patterns and climate, in addition to different pathogen challenges, new strains. Those are all things that we can focus on. And again, test for pathogen resistance, like we just talked about with that one specific trial. Climate and temperature adaptation, that's going to be something that our drought spotter scales, we're really excited about putting those to the test and seeing
Yeah.
how we can push different varieties that are currently in the market or potentially ones that could perform better in commercial spaces.
Yeah.
And also, there's room to expand research in areas where we're not typically looking at, traditional crops. Are there any crops that uh, aren't currently really like large producer commercially that are actually going to be slightly more adaptable to the conditions that we're seeing, while still being like really high commercial value? That's an
Mhm.
exciting prospect that we could definitely help growers look into.
Yeah.
And some other like common themes, just general like risk reduction. How can we have, like Scott said, that independent space where we can kind of take some of that risk off of the grower? We know that we have the controlled facility to be able to facilitate whether it's pathogen resistance or pest trials. We can take that risk and kind of let the growers just focus on those answers. And a lot of those risks are, again, risks that growers are facing in their commercial spaces every day. So I mean, there are so many things that we could continue to talk about, but there's definitely some broad themes. And I think that our facility is flexible enough to be able to address the majority of them, again, so that we can kind of take that risk out of asking questions and really just focus on providing the answers.
Mm-hmm. If you're a grower looking for answers and, you know, wants they need to connect with you, how does one go about doing that?
So the best place to start would be going to our website. So that's ncinnovation.ca. There you'll find kind of a wide variety of the different aspects of what we do, how that works. There's an application form on that site where you can put in your information and say kind of here's what I'm looking at, and we'll set up an initial meeting to basically get back to you, see what the feasibility is, and give you a bit more details of how that would work. Another thing to point out on our website too is that we do have multiple innovation centers that could assist the business. So they can take a look at that and see what kind of applies to them.
You're a couple of, I think you told me the last time we spoke that you guys are a couple of plant nerds. So,
Yes.
and I've seen the facility, and it's amazing. I want to know that as a couple of plant nerds, what are you guys most excited about when it comes to working in this new and exciting space?
Uh,
That's a good question.
that's a tough one. The way I look at this facility, as I said to you before, is basically it's like a playground for plant nerds, a scientific playground, really. We have a variety of different tools, growing ways that like really the sky's the limit on what we can test and what we can do. And I think really to me, that's the most exciting spot is that we're not pigeonholed into a certain kind of way of growing. We can basically look at the entire market as a whole and see how can we help people, how can we solve those problems, and just kind of let's all be better together.
I mean, that's a pretty great answer. I don't think I could say anything to top that. But yeah, just to echo what Scott said, like we really like the almost like the troubleshooting part of research, the like figuring out the tough parts and getting past those hurdles and over those hurdles. And that's what we can do with this facility, with a lot of the spaces or the specific pieces of equipment that we've already mentioned. So yeah, just the possibility is really exciting for sure.
Well, I mean, it is. It's true. And what's happening at Niagara College in general, just it's a good news story for the industry. So, I just want to thank you guys for taking the time to chat with me today about this. I think I'm not alone in being excited about what's coming out of there. So, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me.
Yeah,
Thank
thank you
you.
so much.